Good morning and welcome back to Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. And I'm in front of my ginormous, seriously ginormous tomato plant. It sprawls out about 6 feet. It was about 6 foot tall also, but all those top ones are bending over too. But what do I do so I don't have to buy tomato plants every time I come to Arizona? And I like this one, and I don't know if I can get it again next year. So theoretically, I should be able to propagate tomatoes from tomato plants, have them ready to plant out early, and never buy another tomato plant again. So how am I going to bring some of this tomato back to Wyoming? I'm going to show you a couple ways that I'm going to propagate them besides saving seeds. I'll do that also. And we'll see how many seasons I can get out of this one tomato plant. So here is my huge tomato plant. It just sprawls all over the place. And at one point it was 6 feet tall, and now the branches are just getting so heavy they're tipping over. But I'm cutting the suckers, which is a branch that grows in between two branches at about a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to cut some little ones, I'm going to cut some bigger ones, and I'm going to show you a couple techniques of how I am actually going to propagate these, because you might as well get as much as you can out of each plant. Now I have some wool that I've soaked in some water. I have my plants that are in some water. I have honey instead of ridding powder. I have my pot with filter inside, and my soil mix. This is a 3-in-1 seed soil mix, back to roots. I will be able to fertilize them in just a little bit. Now I'm squeezing that wool out. I use this for felting. And I'm going to get as much as I can right now, though I will put it back in some water to soak everything again. I laid some newspaper down on my table. It's about 1 foot wide by about 4 feet long. You could do it different sizes depending on what you wanted to do. So I'm going to lay out that soil, and I probably have it a 1/2 inch thick. If you see any big pieces of wood, you probably should take those out. If there's just some little pieces, you're totally okay. But sometimes in your potting mix, you will find that you'll have bigger pieces than what you really want. And when you roll it, it can make a difference. So here's one of my suckers. I'm going to cut it one more time. And the more surface area you have in that cut, the better it is when it comes to the rooting. Now you can just dip that in a rooting hormone if you want. I just didn't have any, and I know that honey will work for that too. So I'm just kind of spreading that honey around over where I had cut it, along the stem a little bit, a little food for it. I'm going to press that in, and I'm actually going to put some soil over top of it. And so as I go along, I'm doing them about every 2 inches. And so you can see I have basically a baker's dozen. And now it is time to roll it up. So I have newspaper under it, and I'm going to use that newspaper to help me start that roll. And I want it fairly tight, not terribly compact, but fairly tight. And I'm just going to slowly roll that out. Some of the soil will fall out of the bottom. Totally okay. It doesn't matter. But see, you want to make sure you're rolling it straight. You don't want to crush any of those leaves. The soil gives it a little bit of airspace in between there. And then, of course, I'm going to roll it up all the way to the end, even where I don't have any soil. To make it stay better in place, I'm going to put some strings around it. And I'm just going to wrap 3 different strings. And so that way the soil, the tomatoes, the fiber all stays together. I have my pot that has a coffee filter in the bottom so the soil doesn't come out. I'm just going to push that in there. Now remember, I said I wanted to water that once more because I didn't water the soil. And so I'm going to just put it in that pot, and I'm just going to let it soak up for a while. Now I have a few more suckers that I can use, so I'm going to put a rubber band around that jar, that mesh is actually just from a bag of daffodil bulbs that I just saved the bag. And it has a lot of little slits, so it makes it really easy to just push those tomato plants, those suckers, into the water. And I never have to worry about the leaves getting wet, because if you have leaves soaking in the water, those plants are just going to biodegrade. They're going to fail for sure on you. So if you can keep the leaves out of the water, you'll just be so much more successful. And I'll change that water every couple of days, because I will always want it to be fresh water. And if it at all gets murky, I'll change it every day if I need to. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is pull that big pot out. I'll let it drain a little bit, and I'm going to put it in another pot for a while. I didn't have a saucer that I could use inside, and so I'm going to do that. So after it drains just a little bit more, I can put it by the lights, and it will have lights 16 hours a day. If you haven't tried propagating the suckers on a tomato plant, it is very easy to do. And I'll give you an updated in about 10 days, 2 weeks, and I'll show you the root growth on the different ways that I'm doing it. And you will be surprised at how easy it is to propagate suckers from your tomato plant. See you next time.